This was the moment it all fell apart. 3 key injuries, 1 red card. We finished the game with Christian Romero in goal, only 7 outfield players, and staring down the barrel of a 4-0 defeat against rivals. How on earth do we rescue this? Welcome to the Moneyball Clinic. I took the top 30 leagues, simulated them in full detail, then smashed it all together to create an aggregated database. This will be the baseline from which I'll be taking a look at a different team each episode, analysing their squad, creating a simple tactic, and using performance data to suggest practical transfer targets. Let's start with the obvious question. Why Tottenham? A 5th place finish in Ange's first season is pretty good. Their football is exciting. Dominic Solanke, Archie Gray and Wilson Odobert are fun signings. But therein lies the problem. If Moneyball ultimately is the identification of players undervalued by the market, then we need to understand a player's market value. Thankfully, transfermarket.com exists. Odobert, who was signed for nearly €30 million, was valued at only 10. Spurs paid a whopping €23 million above Gray's market value. The €40 million rated Dominic Solanke ended up costing north of 60. Pound for pound, Tottenham Hotspur overspent the most this summer, setting themselves apart from other profligate Premier League sides such as Newcastle or Brighton. Now I should point out that transfermarket.com is not the arbiter of market value. After all, a player is ultimately worth what a team is willing to spend on them. But it seemed as good a justification as any to pick today's team. So we'll be going back to the beginning of summer 2024. We've used the regular 24.3 database and started in Norway on the 1st of April. We then holidayed until the end of the season, multiple times, until we got the right promotions and relegations. Due to UEFA coefficients, England got an extra Champions League spot, so we've been upgraded from the Europa League. We've gone and sold every player that Spurs deemed surplus to requirements in real life. Oliver Skipp, Emerson Royal, Joe Rodon, Giovanni Lo Celso, Eric Dyer, Ryan Sessegnon, Tanguy Ndombele, Ivan Perisic, Japhet Tanganga, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Brian Hill and Manor Solomon. There were far more willing buyers in FM than in real life, so it'd be unfair to compare revenue generated between the two. Our challenge is to identify reinforcements for less than the €130 million Spurs spent. But before we talk about alternatives to Odobert, Gray and Solanke, there's a couple more sales I need to mention. The ever-benevolent Saudi League came swooping for players that would have otherwise been on the peripheries of the squad. Al Ittihad saw fit to offer €11.75 million for Sergio Reguilon. Al Ahly parted ways with $43.5 million for Richarlison. Let's replace them first. Reguilon did not play enough minutes in the simulation and was anyway out on loan, so let's take a look at Destiny Udogie for comparison instead. Aggressive and dribbly, but very little attacking output. Udogie was also rather impressive in the air, winning 62% of his headers. For a player to back him up, I'd be keen to see more expected assists or goals in exchange for being a little bit worse in other areas. Someone like Celtic's Greg Taylor perhaps, a resolute personality, available for $10.5 million and about to enter his prime. Less dribbly, more creative, far more secure in possession. Or maybe Blackburn's Harry Pickering. His output appears to be less than Greg Taylor's, but he's on the ball less frequently. His 6.47 progressive passes account for 15.7% of all his passes. He's also professional and available at half the price. $5 million for a backup is my kind of deal, and so Harry Pickering it is. Richarlison did play enough, but as a player who can play multiple positions, he split his time between the wings and up front, which leads to a skewed pizza chart. What we can see is that he's an effective presser and a slightly underwhelming goal scorer. With Son, Kulusevski, Johnson, Maddison, and whoever replaces Odobert, we are more than set in the wide positions, so let's look for a backup striker. Ellis Sims might not be the first name that comes to mind for most. He scores above his XG, wins his headers, and provides for others. Unspectacular but solid. €8 million for a 23-year-old is quite appealing. But there's a 20-year-old who does things better at a higher quality of league. RB Leipzig's Peter Radkov is in the 75th percentile for goals and 95th for expected assists. A €15 million asking price is a bargain. But his wage demands are not, and so Sims, who will count as homegrown in England, wins out. Now, onto the marquee signings. Wilson Odobert arrived for just shy of €30 million from Burnley, but in FM he didn't play enough minutes in the simulation for us to have data. That's okay, because I don't think Spurs need another right-footed winger. A left-footer to challenge Dejan Kulusevski, however, would be nice. Kulu is great. He scores, he creates, he dribbles. He drops deep and aids in progression. It's going to be difficult to find someone similar at a decent price. Or at least I thought. Riccardo Orsolini is more dribbly, has greater expected assists, and only a little less involved in build-up. A positive personality, experience in a top 5 league, and available for around the €30 million mark that Odobert was signed for. Calvin Stengs, on the other hand, has even better creative and goal-scoring output and similar build-up involvement. He is, of course, doing it in a slightly lower quality league, and that is perhaps reflected in the €18.5 million asking price. Stengs' wage demands are also lower, and that is enough of a reason to seal the deal. For €40 million, Archie Gray was signed from Leeds, a wonder kid whose expected assists, possession won and possession lost metrics are unrivaled at his age, especially at a level like the Championship. In FM he is available for around €25 million, and that is completely justifiable, but it would feel like cheating. So let's look at alternatives. Like Tobias Gullikson, a little less creative, far more dribbly, and a much more effective goal scorer. Gullikson is a little more involved in harassing the opposition than sweeping up loose balls, and the Elite Syrian is a lot lower level than the Championship, but €3 million is also a lot cheaper. €5.5 million is also cheaper than 25, and that could get you Yassine Adli. 5 years Gray's senior, but far greater attacking output and achieved in a top 5 league. He is capable both at pressuring and regaining possession. Adli can provide cover in all 3 midfield positions, and that's why we brought him in. Tottenham's marquee signing, of course, was Dominic Solanke. For just shy of €65 million from Bournemouth, a sensational season in real life. But FM has not been so kind, in only the 35th percentile for goals and 60th for expected assists. Finding better for cheaper is not going to be hard. Ivan Toney is probably the obvious choice. Prolific, creative, and English. He's an upgrade on Solanke in every single metric, and €40 million is a fair price. At 28 he is entering his prime and would surely fill the void left by Harry Kane. 3 years younger and more prolific, despite having the same XG, is Nice's Terem Moffi. He is less effective in the air than Toney, but also €12 million cheaper. Both have similar wage demands. Ligue 1 might not be seen as being as good as the Premier League, but it is still top 5, and Moffi hasn't been caught betting on his own team. An easy decision. So there we have it, 5 arrivals for €65 million, or 6 for €75 million if you include the pre-arranged Bergvall transfer. For whatever reason, Heung-min Son does not want to sign a new contract. Not with us anyway. €101 million and €1.1 million per week in wages saw him leave for Al Ittihad. This was not part of the plan. Whether you consider him as a winger or a striker, that 0.6 goal contributions per 90 we need to replace. Some of that burden can be shouldered by Moffi, so if we can find a player with more expected assists but fewer goals, we might be fine. Someone like Sporting's Pedro Gonçalves perhaps. He also combined for 0.60 goal contributions and has that dribbliness I so often covered. Moreover, he can play in central positions if we so need. A good personality and a €42 million release clause are appealing. Galatasaray's Kerem Aktürkoğlu has an even better personality and a better price tag at €22.5 million. That comes at the cost of fewer goals and fewer dribbles. all in a lower quality league. He does, however, record more expected assists and pressures. I'm confident both would perform equally well, and so price tag is the deciding factor. Welcome Kerem. So there we have it, 7 arrivals, including Bergvall, for €97.5 million. We've certainly managed to do things for cheaper, but that doesn't matter if we don't get results. And to get results, we need a tactic. Now this would normally be the point of the video where I'd put together a simple shell that could be the foundation for you to develop further. But we're in direct loggerheads with the real-life Tottenham, so we need something resembling Ange Ball. Enter the man, the myth, the legend, RDF Tactics. We're going to be using his Ange Postecoglou tactic created earlier in the FM24 cycle. Now it would frankly be ridiculous for me to run through the tactic. The man himself covers it in great detail, so if you want more information, check out the link appearing above, or in the description below. I will, however, give a brief outline. It's a positive, narrow, high-tempo 4-3-3. 2 inverted wing-backs, 2 wide forwards who hold the width, then cut inside. Out of possession, they engage high and with intensity. Transitions are key, counter-pressing and counter-attacking. With that all in mind, here is how our squad shapes up. We have 2 players for each position, but there is further flexibility in mind. Dragusin and Davis can play wide. Bissouma or Sarr could play deeper. Adley can fill all 3 midfield spots. Maddison can play on the flanks, and all the wide forwards can play on either side. Johnson or Kulu could play up front. All that's left to do is play the game. Here's how it works. All responsibilities have been delegated except those pertaining to transfers. Staffing, media, training, set pieces, all under the auspices of our backroom team. I'll go on holiday between games, turn up on the match day, pick the starting lineup, then hit instant result. After the game, I'll give the players 1 day's rest. Repeat, ad nauseum. How did we get on? So very Spursy. A 2nd place finish is nothing to be ashamed of. I'm sure many fans would bite your hand off for such an outcome. But that Chelsea game was the inflection point. We'd topped the league for 19 of the 22 game weeks up until then. The crushing defeat dropped us to 2nd, and we'd only see the summit sporadically thereafter. Udogie broke his foot and was out for the rest of the season. Van der Ven sprained his knee ligament and only returned in the penultimate game. Vicario's broken wrist saw him miss 9 matches, the last of which was a Carabao Cup final defeat on penalties. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. In the league, we finished as top scorers, had the joint best defence, and by far and away the worst discipline. 4 red cards and 68 yellow cards were our reward for conceding 100 more fouls than any other team. As a transitional side, we found ourselves middle of the pack for possession, 5th for high-intensity sprints. We led the way in clear-cut chances created. A round of 16 exit in the Champions League and quarter-final defeat in the FA Cup leaves us trophyless. There is no doubt we're exciting for the neutral, heart-attack inducing for the fans. But how did the players get on? Harry Pickering was almost exactly what we wanted. A backup who excelled in helping ball progression and creating chances, even if we didn't then finish them. I say almost because 2 red cards in 1200 minutes stops me from calling him dependable. Still, for €5 million, I can hardly complain. Yassine Adley was bought for his flexibility, and flexible he was, splitting time 50-50 between the pivot and more advanced positions. 8 assists and 1 goal is a solid contribution from a bit part player. Calvin Stengs finished the season with a double-double, 10 goals and 10 assists. We wanted a player who could do it all, and Stengs delivered. As did Kerem Aktürkoğlu. His 16 goals from just 8 non-penalty XG was pretty impressive. Add a further 7 assists, and we can be pretty confident in saying that he did a good job of filling the hole vacated by Heung-min Son. Up front, Ellis Sims did what he was brought in to do. In just shy of 800 minutes, that's less than 9 full games, he scored 6, set up 3. Not spectacular per se, but just what we needed from him. And then there was Terem Moffi. 0.76 goals per 90 is pretty damn special. That was good enough for 31 goals in all competitions, 25 of which were in the Premier League. That put him third overall, 3 goals behind our other option, Ivan Toney. For €12 million less, I think we got it right. But how does it compare to what Tottenham did in real life? Using notorious pros transfer update, let's find out. We'll use the exact same tactic, just go on holiday and let the AI decide the lineup. They too finished second, fewer goals scored, more conceded and a lower point tally, but second nonetheless. A cup final defeat to Liverpool is familiar, albeit this time in the FA Cup rather than the Carabao Cup. The biggest difference is European success. Tottenham, this time in the Europa League as they should be, demolished Roma in the final, bringing that ever-elusive silverware to North London. Archie Gray's output was comparable to Adley, Reguilon more dribbly than Pickering, Heung-min Son unsurprisingly outscored Aktürkoğlu. Odegaard barely played, and while Solanke scored fewer overall than Moffi, he did have a higher goals per 90. So, which was better? I'm pretty pleased with the new-look squad's improved performance in the league, and had it not been for injuries, a title was a real possibility. But ultimately, we finished in the same place as the real-life squad, and they won a trophy. I'll let you decide. See you next time.